So, hello, welcome to the CPUX webinar from UXQB and ISQI GmbH. I'm very sorry that we are late. It was some technical problems, but we can start now and we begin. Just a moment. So, as I said, Thomas Kais, the president of International Usability and User Experience Qualification Board, and me, Marina Trofinchuk from ISQI, we will guide you through the presentation. First of all, I will start with giving you some general information about ISQI, who is the international certification body of UXQB. Afterwards, yes?
I think we don't see the screen yet.
I'm sorry.
I don't. Okay, no, well, we'll manage. No worries. This is the real world, isn't it? At least I don't see it. I don't know about our participants. Now it's good. Excellent. Thank you very much.
So I'm go back. That I will start with giving some general information. So after that, I will hand over to Thomas Kais, who will give you some interesting insights to the CPUX portfolio. Please feel free to ask questions by using the chat or question function. We will be happy to answer your question after the presentation. For those who haven't been in contact with ISQI before, I would like to give you some facts and pictures about the company. ISQI has been founded in 2004 in Potsdam, Germany, and now we have 3 entities worldwide, and the Netherlands, and UK, USA. Until today, we conduct over 120,000 exams worldwide in more than 100 countries in 10 different languages. We are working together with our 600 examinees who are conducting the exams globally. Here you can see our product portfolio. So we started in 2004 with software testing, and now we offer certification in requirements engineering, mobile app testing, software product management, and of course usability. As usability is a very important topic, and the demand of certification in this area is growing constantly, we would like to give you some insight in the certifications today. So I would like to explain the cooperation model between UXQB, certification body, and training providers. The cooperation in terms of the certification process is based on ISO IS 17024, which divide the responsibilities of each part strictly. It means that UXQB published and maintained the curriculum, glossary, and certification procedure for the CPUX Foundation Level and CPUX Advanced Level. The certification boards, the certification test itself, it's conducted by us, ISQI, and an independent certification body. I want to say that UXQB does not conduct any training. International training providers develop the training material and conduct the training based on the syllabus. So it's from my side. Now I would like to hand over to Thomas Kais, our specialist today. I will try to do my best once more. So, Thomas, do you hear me?
Oh, yes, yes, I do hear you. And let me see if I have control over the screen. I think so far I do not have control over your screen.
We have now? Because I think we have.
Okay, let's see. I just, first thing I try to do is just flip to the next screen. If you don't touch the computer, I just try it. Okay, I press down, let's see. Because sometimes there's a bit of a lag in here.
Yeah.
And but I see that I have control over the screen. Let me see, right mouse button, next, weiter, weiter. I think that's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, looks good. That looks good. Okay, and here we are. Okay, good. Let's hope that this thing stops now. Here we are. Right. Hello, everybody. My name is Thomas Geis, and I am one of the co-founders and currently president of the International Usability and User Experience Qualification Board. I've been working in the field of usability and user experience engineering for the last actually 27 years. I should update this one. Almost frightening. I am a convener of standards committees, ISO standards committees who actually produce standards for usability and user experience. And as part of that, for example, we defined the term usability in 1998. We defined the term user experience. All these terms are actually standardized terms with lots and lots of guidelines how to apply them, and this has all been published as ISO standards. And I'm one of the people who is engaged in helping to write those ISO standards. I personally like this. I quite like the idea of identifying reusable guidelines, things that always apply and that everybody can use. And this is a sort of a mission. My mission, if you like, for the last 27 years. And I've edited a few ISO standards myself. Actually, this week, a new version of the standard ISO 9241 part 110, which is about what used to be called the dialogue principles. Now it's called interaction principles. It's just a fancier term for the same thing. Actually, this week, I think today it has been published. I'm an active member of the UPA. UPA is the Usability Professionals Association. I'm a member of the German UPA. I'm also a member of the international, now called UXPA. And in 2013, I was given an award for my work in the field of context analysis, which is all about finding out what people do, what they really do, not what they tell you that they do. Find out what people really do and work out the requirements for new products based on this. This is called context of use analysis. Again, a more fancy term is user research. Exactly, that's what they call it now, user research. Plenty of people calling themselves user researchers. Anyway, I'm an engineer. I'm a trained engineer for automatic control engineering. This is my subject. That's where I come from. So I'm one of the engineers in the community of usability and user experience professionals. I just want to point that out because in the area of usability and user experience, you have plenty of different disciplines who are engaged in this. You have psychologists, you have designers, of course you have a few engineers like me, but it's a sort of a multidisciplinary field of work. And right, so let's get started. I pressed page down and here we are, next slide. Wonderful. Let me give you a bit of history about the UXQB, because people always wonder, who am I talking to? You know, is this a businessman and does he want to sell us something? The UXQB is a non-profit organization. It's in the truest sense, we never have money. The UXQB is a non-profit organization, and it originates from a working group as part of the German UPA that was founded in 2007. In 2007, the German UPA, Usability Professionals Association, decided that they have to do something about let's say the quality of outputs of what's now called human-centered design. That's the sort of the set of activities that usability professionals work on. It was decided that we have to think about what are the core roles that do usability work, because we had testers for usability, we had those who derived the requirements for usability, we had the user interface designers, and on business cards there were all kinds of words. I mean, you know what it's like. Whenever we can, we put something extraordinary on our business card because we want to show the world that we are different from all the others. So we invent job titles like user experience architect and user experience researcher, user researcher, and whatnot. User interface designer, interaction designer, information architect, all those terms are around. And in 2007, we were analyzing the market for job titles that people give themselves. And based on these, we inventorized them. And based on these, we came up with a minimal role model for usability and user experience. This is actually on the web. You can find it if you just Google role model usability German UPA. It's in English. It's on the web. It's quite interesting to read. So we came up with a role model in 2010. And once we had that role model, members of the UPA asked, well, if these are the roles that do the work, what are actually the processes that they should follow to do the work? And so based on that role model for usability professionals, we decided, I was actually the head of the activity at the time, we decided to write a quality standard for usability engineering that was also published in 2010. And this standard actually contained activities that people should do, the deliverables that they should produce, also attributes on those deliverables, what makes a usability test report a usability test report. And based on that, all of a sudden there were inquiries by professionals asking for a certification. And so we started working on a certification scheme. And once we had that ready, we realized, as there were plenty of international inquiries from professionals asking for that certification, we realized, well, we cannot operate such a certification within the German UPA. It has to be some independent international organization that has to be formed. And therefore, in 2013, the German UPA decided to invent an organization called UXQB, which is now fully independent from the German UPA. Of course, we are partners and we have contracts with each other, but the UXPA was launched in 2013, and that's where we came up with the Certified Professional for Usability and User Experience. Just to give you one number before I go into details, there are now more than 5,000 people who have this certificate since 2013. In 2014, we came up with the first advanced level certification for usability testing and evaluation, because it becomes more and more obvious in projects that if you don't test the product that you develop for usability, especially during you develop it, it will never be usable in the end. And if it's unusable in the end, then you don't have the money to make it usable again. So we came up with the CPUX-UT in 2014, and in 2016 we came up with another advanced level certification, which is about user requirements engineering. I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Okay, so that's the history of what we did. And as you sit here in a webinar about usability and user experience, it makes sense that I quickly explain what these concepts really are. Because still, many projects believe that usability is a matter of taste. And in fact, it's not. It's a matter of doing the right thing in the project. So people, after the project is completed, are able to work with the product that has been developed effectively. Effective means that people can achieve their intended outcomes, that they can complete their tasks without external help, without the need to consult somebody who helps them because they get stuck and cannot continue. This is called effectiveness. And usability also includes the fact that users are as efficient as suitable for the task they are doing. So efficiency is all about not making unnecessary steps, not wondering about what to do next, not having to restart because you did something that you should not have done, and therefore you have to start the whole process again. This is all about efficiency. And the third dimension, that's what it's called, as dimension. The third dimension of usability is the fact that people, while they are working with the system, are satisfied with what they are doing. So they don't feel discomforted. They have a good feeling when they work with the product. And this happens during what we call actual use, when people have their hands on the computer or on the medical device or on the lawn mover or on the kitchen oven. These are all interactive systems, we call them. And as long as people are effective, efficient, and satisfied with what they experience while they are working with the system, we call this usability. And the concept of user experience is not a competitor to usability, or it's not its successor. Both concepts are complementary. Usability simply looks at what happens to people during the use of a system. User experience goes a bit further. User experience assumes that people who have not yet used a product imagine what it would be like if they would use the product. This is also referred to as anticipated use. We all do this. It's not some esoteric concept. We all do this. If you go to the shop, you know, and you compare smartphones because you want to get a new smartphone, you're not 100% sure about which one you want. You compare these things, and while you compare them in the shop, you actually anticipate what it would be like if you had one of these. And so anticipated use is the perceptions you have about a product before you have used it or even before you have purchased it. This is called anticipated use. In a way, you can say that people complete a usability test in their mind before they actually use the product, because you imagine what it would be like to have it, and it is, in a way, it's a usability test. And it's important for those who are managing products, product managers, actually that's a job title, product manager. If you are a product manager and your role is to make a product successful, you have to consider how potential users of your product anticipate your product. Because if this anticipation is negative, if there's a negative perception about your product before having touched it, then it is very likely that people are not going to touch it and not go to purchase it and not go to use it. So this is called anticipated use. And we expect, if the anticipated use is positive and during actual use, the things that you had in mind where you imagined what it would be like to use the product, if these things become true, if these ideas how to solve a problem with the product that you expected to be possible, if this becomes true, then you have a positive digested use. I call it digested use in these slides. It's not the term from the standards, but it clearly says what it is. Once we have worked with a product, afterwards we have responses in terms of, wow, that was great, I want to use this again tomorrow, or I have to tell my colleagues about this. This is much better than everything we ever had so far. So that would be positive responses after use. Or you might feel negative about what you identified. You might feel, well, you know, when I wanted to buy it, it looked obvious to me. Let's give an example, that the unlock button, let's say on a smartphone, you know, you classically have those, what are they called again? Fingerprint buttons. And a fingerprint, you know, this, what is it actually called? I call it a fingerprint button now. These fingerprint buttons in the past, let's say with the iPhone 8, that was the last one that had it from Apple, you just had to put your finger on it, tap it once, and the phone was unlocked. And lately, the manufacturers promote the idea of having a fingerprint sensor under the screen, below the screen. You've seen it all, you know all about it. But once you buy these, you will realize that you have to tap twice. The first tap is necessary to get the screen up, and the second tap is to tap the fingerprint sensor. So all of a sudden, You have to make 2 steps where you used to make 1 step. And that is a very negative experience. It's interesting to see this. And so we would say the anticipated use would have been, wow, now they have the fingerprint under the screen. How excellent, because then I have more screen space and I don't need the space for the physical home button at the bottom of the screen. And then you say, let's buy this. This is cool. And once you have it, you realize, bloody hell, all of a sudden I have to tap twice, you know, which is not nice. And the digested use of this might be that you say, I have to warn others to not buy this feature because it is clumsy and it doesn't work as nicely as the traditional home button did. So, you know, all I want to say is you want to be very careful. User experience is something that starts before people are having a product. People imagine what it would be like. They get a picture about how the interaction with the thing works. Then they have it. And when they have it, it has to be as imagined or better. If it is worse than imagined, then the digested use is negative. So, you know, this is the concept of user experience, and there's plenty of guidelines how to do this right. And there's plenty of companies who don't know those guidelines, right? And these are the products we work with on a daily basis. Okay. Now, I want to give you a short example about how to really approach a user experience correctly. Here we have an online store. This is actually an online store. I hope the mouse moves in a minute. It does. Well, there's a bit of a lag. Let's see how far we get. I will talk. This is an online store where you can buy glasses, you know, eyewear. And the interesting feature of this online shop is that you can try out the glasses before having purchased them. And in tradition, or in sort of the first, is there a question? I've heard a noise. Okay. Right. Oh, I'm hearing myself. Don't worry about it. There, for some reason, there is some noise for me. Anyway, what you see here is that's me actually. It's my face. What you see here is that in the shop you can actually try out glasses realistically. It doesn't look that well over the web now, but it was a real video where I was virtually wearing those glasses. And in this shop, you can sit there actually for hours and try out all those glasses that you would never, ever even dare to try out in a shop. Because you might think, well, I don't know what I look like. And then people in the shop, they look at me while I try out glasses. You know, you might feel in a real shop, you might feel a bit embarrassed about doing this. In particular, if the optician has a lot of things to do and, you know, is basically waiting until you purchase. So this is an example for an online shop where you can anticipate the products that they sell. You simply try them out, and not by uploading pictures and all kinds of clumsy steps that you have to make to later on see something that doesn't look like it would look in reality. No, this shop allows you to really get an impression about what it would be like to wear those glasses, you know. And just here some extreme, you know, this is also, of course, engaging children, you know. These glasses, of course, in a business, you wouldn't wear those glasses. There's a German singer called Udo Lindenberg. He actually has exactly this pair, but you know, he's not in the IT domain. But you know, here you can try out things before you purchase them, and this is an example for how to design user experience into a website, and it's very well done in this case. Okay, so that is just an impression. What do we mean by user experience in practice? User experience is something that we have to design into the products that we build. Now, coming back to, oops, now the video is, okay, here we are, perfect. Sorry about me clicking the wrong way. Now, coming back to the UXQB and the Certified Professional for Usability and User Experience, the one thing that we have to be aware of is that if you want to get usability and user experience into your projects, you have to follow so-called human-centered design activities. And these are the 4 that you see in here. And the CPUX curriculum is strictly based on those 4 activities. They're all published in a standard 9241-210. I'm currently the editor actually of this standard, or lately the editor. So it is always assumed that whatever product you build, you have to be clear about the context of use in which this product shall be used. And after you understood the context of use for the product, you have to specify the requirements from the user's perspective. We're not talking about system requirements. We're talking about requirements from the user's perspective. And these requirements from the user's perspective are then the basis to produce design solutions that actually meet those requirements. And what we have learned from usability engineering in the last probably 50 years, whatever you design, you have to test it with users to find out what's wrong with it, because in the beginning, you will never, ever get it right. That is so normal. You never, ever get it right at the first shot. Although the project team might be happy about the fancy thing that they have designed, careful. You have to evaluate it with users. And once you evaluate it with users, you will find out that you might have overlooked a task that they do that you were not aware of. You might find out that you have overlooked requirements. Although you looked at the tasks, that certain requirements that are there, you didn't find when you analyzed the context of use. And you might also find out that you simply made unsuitable design decisions. You just decided, for example, to just have icons without a label below them. And afterwards, you find out nobody understands those icons. Would you have read an ISO standard on how to visualize menus? You would have read, never ever leave the icons out. Never ever leave the text labels out. And if you ask yourself, if you look at the ribbon, the Microsoft ribbon, which is the new, let's say it's not that new, it's probably 13 years old, but which is the latest style of having a toolbar on an application. If you look at the ribbon toolbar compared to traditional toolbars, you will see that the major difference between the two is that on the so-called ribbon toolbar, you do have icons and text labels. And before that was impossible with the old type of toolbar. And this was actually the major rationale to come up with the ribbon, so-called ribbon toolbar. Don't ask me why it's called ribbon. Anyway, this is the process that you have to understand if you want to become a certified professional for usability and user experience. And as part of the so-called foundation level certification, what we do is we train you in terms of terms. That's another good one. We train you with regards to the terms and concepts that exist within usability and user experience engineering, and we train you about all those deliverables that you see down here. So all those, we say, whenever you go through such a phase, you have to come up with deliverables. If these deliverables are missing in the project, you will later on have uncertainty about what you are doing. And these are all deliverables that usability, user experience professionals produce. Okay, so what we're doing as UXQB is not that we are reinventing the world. We are not reinventing the world. We are applying what has been written in ISO standards and make sure that people understand that and can pass certification based on this. Okay. What's on the next slide? Let's get a surprise. Here we go. Exactly. Usability and user experience is nothing that we can take for granted. 99% of all apps that people download from an app store and start afterwards, they delete after uninstall, after looking at the initial screen. Okay. 99% of all apps that people anticipate to be the right ones for them, they install them, and then they look at the first screen, don't understand a thing, and assume this is not good for them, and therefore uninstall them again. So usability and user experience is nothing you can take for granted these days. In particular, when it comes to business systems, if your customers are companies where you basically develop software that goes into their business, this can be dramatically bad in terms of usability and user experience. And therefore, to make it short, therefore, there is a need for professionalism in the field of user experience. And we believe that it is necessary for team members that they all have the same concept of usability, that they speak the same language in terms of they use the same terms, they use the same concepts, they understand those terms and concepts, and therefore they are capable of getting a usable product together. And here's just a statement of a colleague from the US, Jared Spool. he's another one who writes about usability and user experience, but he's a great practitioner, a great professional. And Jed Spool has worked out not so long ago that often software packages, or typically software, that often software with its very first release is actually quite good from a usability perspective. And then with the second and the third release, all of a sudden functionality is being added that has not been based on user requirements, and therefore the usability and user experience of those systems go down over time. And of course, this then leads to not having the market success that you were actually aiming for. And Jed has given this phenomenon a nice name. He calls it experience rot. Like we have rotten tomatoes. Jed Spool says, if you don't care about the usability and user experience as part of the life cycle of your product, then it will go down over time, and your customers will not value this at all the way through the point where your customers decide to switch to another product, and then you've lost them. So be careful. Usability and user experience is nothing that we can take for granted. It's still something that has to be actively worked on in each and every project. Okay. More usability means more market success, and that's why we say the UXQB comes up with an international consistent quality standard to certify people. This is what we're aiming at, and we believe that this is something that is needed as we have more and more global teams, international teams, people working in Germany, people working in the Ukraine, all of them working together. The ones develop the product, the other ones define it. Then the client might be in Saudi Arabia, So we're talking about international teams, and these international teams all have to speak the same language. And this is what we are aiming at with our curricula for usability and user experience professionals. What are the offerings that we actually have as UXQB? Now, in general, this is very, very similar to other sort of professional certifications. There's always a foundation level where we assume this has to be done first. This has to be reached first. And once you have reached that, this is the CPUX-F. Once you have reached that, you can take 1 or 2 or 3 or as many as there will be in the future advanced levels. And these advanced levels at the moment are the certified professional for user requirements engineering, the certified professional for usability testing and evaluation. And by the fourth quarter of this year, we will have the certified professional for designing solutions. And the first two, the foundation level, the user requirements engineering professional and the usability testing professional, I will talk about today. Designing solutions is currently under development. The curriculum is in a late stage in terms of there are still lots of reviews to make, to get things right, but it has been developed for more than a year now, and therefore we are quite far with it. Okay, so how do you get certified? Now, in general, if you want to take the foundation level, there are no formal prerequisites to take the test. Having said that, previous knowledge in the area of usability and user experience is an advantage, but you can start at scratch. But if you start at scratch, I would advise you to go to a course that prepares you for the certification. You can always take the test without a previous seminar. You don't have to go to a seminar training if you don't want to. You think you don't have to. You don't have to go there. But it is recommended for those who are starting from scratch with usability and user experience. Having said that, the failure rates, the pass rates, the failure rates for those tests it's going up and down a bit, but in general I can say it is between 15 and 25%. So don't take for granted that if you try it without preparation that you will pass. I would almost say this one you can forget. Now, the foundation level certification is a paper-based or electronic exam. It's a pure multiple choice exam. You get 40 questions. You have 75 minutes to complete them. And if you are not a native speaker of one of the 2 languages that we offer the exam in, you can ask for a 20% time extension. So if you're a French person, we would assume you're not a native English speaker, you're not a native German speaker, then you can take 90 minutes to do the test. If you are an English person, we would say, or American, or South African, or Australian, or New Zealand person, we would say, well, you're a native English speaker, and therefore you have to do it in 75 minutes. Now, 40 questions doesn't sound that difficult, does it? But if you look at the 75 minutes that you have, that means you have less than 2 minutes to answer each of them. And there might be one or another question where you think, what on earth are they asking for? So because of that, you know, be prepared for this exam. So that's the foundation level. And once you have reached the foundation level certification, I would personally recommend to first go for a user requirements engineering training if you want to, if you want to systematically get through the process of usability and user experience engineering. You don't have to decide first to do this one and then this one. It's completely up to you. But from a purely process perspective, I can recommend to start with requirements first. Now, for the advanced levels, the situation is that we always have a theoretical test plus a practical test. I'll give you a bit of an impression how that practical test works on the next 2 slides. And for the user requirements engineering professional currently, we have a mixture of multiple choice questions for the theoretical test and open questions. Open question means you have to give answers, you have to write text. The practical test is a so-called context of use analysis. I will show you on a separate slide what that means. The theoretical test takes 90 minutes. The practical test takes 6 hours. Don't get frightened by this number, 6 hours. It's just that after every public training that is being offered, which is typically a 3-day training, there is one day, we call it the 4th day, where you can either you have participated in the training or you just come in for the 4th day and you have 6 hours to complete your assignment in a classroom. You have to be present. It's nothing you take home. And the certification test for the user requirements engineering professional is available in English and German. That's actually true for all of our curricula at the moment. Then we have the second advanced level, which is the usability testing and evaluation professional. Again, theoretical test plus practical test. Here we have reached already a pure multiple choice test for the theoretical test. You have 90 minutes to complete it. And the practical test is actually that you have to conduct a usability test. I have a separate slide for that. And this is a homework that you take. You've got 3 months to complete it after a training, or, without a training, of course, you just decide, I want to start it next week. But you have 3 months to complete this after you have taken the theoretical test. I was wrong. After you have taken the theoretical test, you have 3 months to decide when to do the usability test. And you have to expect for that practical assignment here that it will need about 3 days, 3 days work to complete it. I'll show you what it means in practice on the next slides. Okay, now, yes, practical tests. What do you have to expect? The certified professional for user requirements engineering, the way the practical test works is that those who take the test are sitting in a classroom and they get shown a video. They get shown a video where a professional user requirements engineer, you could say, it's this lady here, has an interview with a user, with a prospective person who's supposed to use the system. And you people in the classroom have to observe this interview and write down parts of the conversation that takes place there. Another part of it is already written down in your documents. And based on the documentation of this interview, you have to identify so-called user needs in the data that were given by the interviewed person, and you have to derive user requirements based on that. And then later on, you have to structure those user requirements by the tasks that this person really does in their life. And for this, for this practical test, you have 6 hours to complete it. Actually, the video takes about 30 minutes. And then basically you have 5.5 hours to do the analysis. If you ask yourself, goodness, why do we have to sit there for 5.5 hours? Well, the answer is simple. Some people take longer, others don't. There are people who do the complete assignment within 90 minutes. There are other people who might take 3 hours. Having said that, in the last, where are we, 2020, in the last 2 years, we haven't seen anybody sitting there really 6 hours to complete it. Typically after 4 hours maximum, people leave. But if you know that you can stay there for 6 hours, it might give you a bit of, it might relax you actually. And that's what we found. If you offer people more time, they're more relaxed in completing a job. Okay, so that is the practical test for the user requirements engineering professional. If we look at the practical test for the usability testing and evaluation professional, the way this works is that those who take the test have to plan, prepare, conduct, and report a usability test, a real usability test. So participants get a website, basically, a publicly accessible website, and then they are supposed to identify the user groups for this website, actually recruit 3 users, and one after another complete 3 usability test sessions with the users. And once these have been completed, they have to be recorded, the full test session, and a report has to be written by the participant about the usability tests with 3 users. And this report goes to an expert examiner together with the video, and then it is examined whether everything has been done according to the requirements of the curriculum. Just to give you a quick insight, if you ask yourself, what can you actually do wrong during a usability test? Well, this is a participant in a test, this gentleman here, and this gentleman, guess who it is? That's me, is the one who conducts the usability test. That's the moderator. And the moderator is not supposed to talk to the test participant while the test participant performs the tasks given to him. Having said that, test participants always talk and they look at you while they work at the system. They might even ask you questions, and your role is to simply keep your mouth shut, to make it very quick. And people simply don't do that, And as soon as you start a conversation with your test participant, the test data are corrupt, Just to give you an impression, what can you do wrong as part of a usability test? Basically everything, right? This is why we do. This is why we have a curriculum on it. Okay. Now, what else can we say? The UXQB has, for each and every certification or curriculum that they offer, there is a full curriculum. Everything is in there that you need to know to pass the certification. There's always a full glossary available of terms that are used within the curriculum. The certification procedure is explicitly described. And this is the good news, for each of our certifications, we have a full set of public test questions that you can use for a self-assessment to find out, where you are with your knowledge about this foundation level or the usability tester or the user requirements engineer. Those who want to offer training, for companies who want to offer training, we have designed a model course, a course where we say, look, if you do it this way, you are most likely to get people passed. But that's what we offer as UXQB as a service to our providers and to those who want to take the test. Now, our website, that's the website uxqb.org. If you look at our website, you will see that all those documents are available here, including a contract for those who want to become training provider. And here you see that besides English and German, there's, at least for the foundation level, there's also a French version, a Russian version, and a Chinese version. Totally forgot that. The Chinese version is also available. Yeah, exactly. But the Chinese version is represents the last curriculum that we are having, but the French and the Russian version, they are actually old versions of the curriculum, former versions. We left them online. So people who speak this language get a bit of an impression what's in the curricula, but the legally binding curricula are the English, the German, and the Chinese. Sorry, I just forgot that we have the Chinese version. I should put that on the slides ahead. Okay. Now, our curricula, they define certain terms. I don't want to go into detail here. User needs are something different than user requirements. If you want to find out what the difference is, just look at the curriculum. It explains everything to you. There are also test questions on this. Then there are terms like scenario, there are terms as is scenario and use scenario. In usability engineering, you rely on that you write things in terms of scenarios that clearly describe the user's world that he's in. And the as-is scenario describes the context of your users without your system, so before they get your system. And a use scenario describes the context of the users once they use your system, once it is in place. So this is, present, and this is future. And there are requirements on all those things. It looks like simple text here, but to write this text down correctly so you can derive requirements from it is a bit of a task. Here is probably another defined term in the curriculum, which is the term user interface. Plenty of people have the wrong or a far too narrow concept of user interface. User interface is defined as any information that a user needs to complete a task and the controls that the system offers to complete the task. And if you look at those bottles, we would say the information that you need as a user is the content of the bottle, and all three of them have water, but one has sparkling water, the other one has still water. And you know what it's like. If you look at those bottles, often you cannot work out what's really in there because they have all kinds of fancy titles to say this is sparkling water. The only word they don't give you is the word sparkling water, right? So the user interface of a bottle consists of the information on those labels. And if this is the label, the information that users really need in their context, we would say this is a good interface. And also this interface has controls. And one control is up here. It's the open-close control, also known as a lid. But if you want to get rid of the lid because you think you want to work out something more innovative, you would have to think about another implementation of an open / or dash close control. Also, there's a handle on each of those bottles. Here you have an explicit handle on the one in the middle. And here you have an implicit handle on the left side and on the right side. And you can easily tell that it's not as simple holding those outer two bottles compared with the inner bottle, especially for children. If one of your target group is children, then they will have trouble with those large bottles here that don't have an explicit handle that helps them to hold the bottle, and not only to hold it, also to shift it in order to get the water out. This is all usability. Okay. Here is an example of a test question. If you look at those, if you ask yourself, what do those test questions look like as part of a certification test? Excuse me. There's always one question with 6 possible answers. And if you look at the 6 possible answers, either one of them is correct, or 2 of them are correct, or 3 of them are correct. Never 4, never 5, never 6. Either 1 or 2 or 3 are correct. And in the question, it clearly indicates to you the question how many answers are correct. So here it says, which 3 of the following components are part of the user interface of a car from the perspective of the person driving the car so-called car driver? And here are the 6 possible answers: accelerator, license plate, stick shift, bumper, tow bar, or carburetor. And if you ask yourself what are the 3 right answers, you can easily look at our public test questions, because it gives you the right answers and it explains why those answers are correct. But just to engage you in this, I show you what the right answers are. It's the accelerator, the stick shift, and the tow bar. The license plate is not part of the user interface for the car driver. The bumper is not part of the user interface for the driver. And the carburetor is neither part of the user interface. So now where you ask yourself why, the answer is check our website and download the public test questions and have a look. Okay, what else do we have on the list for today? I think, yeah, here we have an impression of what a certificate looks like that you receive after you have completed the certification test successfully. The certificate looks like this here. Of course, there's a beautiful UXQB and a beautiful ISQI logo on there. And the claim of the certificate is that the holder of the certificate for the foundation level is familiar with the general terms and concepts in the field of usability and user experience, covering those 7 areas of competence. That is the claim that we make, and that is written on the certificate. Okay. Advanced levels, what's the current status here? Currently there are 3 advanced level modules. 2 of them are on the market, so to say. They are the 2 where you can take the certification test. And the 3rd one that we are working on is the one on designing solutions. And this one is under development. We assume it will be ready by the end of the 3rd quarter 2020. So we can have the first training and certifications starting from October 2020. That's the current plan. Okay. What else? Internationalization of the CPUX scheme. The UXQB is an organization that relies on volunteers from member organizations, and member organizations are typically the local chapters, the national chapters, as people call them, of the UXPA. In Germany, we have the German UPA. In the UK, we have the UK UXPA. Then there is an organization called UX Switzerland, UX Schweiz, but this is the official chapter of Switzerland for the UXPA. Then we have UX Denmark. That's the leading organization for user experience professionals in Denmark. In sort of the organization where all the people who are interested in the subject gather. And the same in Austria. In Austria, it's UX Pro, and UX Pro is our member organization in Austria. And those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 member organizations, they are actually the core of the UXQB, because each member organization sends what we call national experts, and they are participating in the development of the curricula, in changing the curricula, updating the curricula. That's the national experts who have their say and their role in the UXQB. I think I've got one more slide. That's this one exactly. By the end, again, I haven't updated it. Sorry about this. By the end of March 2020, that's what it should write here. By the end of March 2020, we had already more than 5,000, I think it's 5,350 certified professionals for usability and user experience, mainly around Europe. If you look at the world map here, you see the areas where most of our certified people are from. Having said that, there are certified professionals in China, in the United States, in all kinds of countries, Arabic countries, African countries. These are the people who typically live in a country where we don't have training providers yet, but there are so-called Pearson View centers. These are, let's say, computer training centers that actually offer to take the test for you. So you can register with them and just go there and take the test, no matter if there is a training provider in the country or not. I think that's as much as I wanted to say today. Let me see. Yeah, and here we are. That's the last slide. So thank you very much for attending. We've got actually 3 more minutes for questions. So in case there are questions in the chat, I'm happy to answer them now. In case there aren't questions, no worries. You can always send emails to us after the webinar. You see our email addresses down here. So I hand over to Marina.
Thank you. We have no question in our chat function. So I would like to thank you, Thomas Geis, for your presentation. I would like to thank you, our attendees, for this webinar, and please join us in another webinars that we are then we will start maybe in 1 month. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Marina. Thanks a lot to everybody participating. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Goodbye.